Attention today, China's new island building tech sure to churn South China Sea. New excavation method allows for construction on soft coral sand, enabling an acceleration of Chinese building on contested features. Chinese scientists have devised a new method to overcome the challenges of constructing on soft coral sand, upping the stakes in the disputed South China Sea, where rival claimants are racing to build up features to gain a military edge. This month, the South China Morning Post, CMP, reported that scientists from China's Ocean University have developed a new excavation method that overcomes the limitations of soft coral sand for artificial island building. CMP notes that China's three largest artificial islands, Miji, Mischief Reef, Yangshu, Fiery Cross Reef, and Zhubi, Sudi Reef, create a triangular defense position against U.S. bases in the Philippines. The report notes that China has transformed 7 reefs in the Spratlys into artificial islands using a distinctive method that involves extracting coral from the reef's core, pulverizing it, and piling it up to create elevated artificial land to host various facilities. CMP says the Chinese science team, led by Chen Suguang, proposed building large tunnels beneath each island to bolster China's foothold in the region without provoking its neighbors. China's military and government have mandated that construction activities must not disrupt daily operations or the stability of existing surface structures due to the delicate underlying coral sand layer, the CMP report said. Chen and his colleagues have developed an engineering technique that injects a slurry mixed with fine cement particles into the ground through vertical pipes, fills in the gaps between the coral sand grains, and solidifies into a rock-hard underground mass once the cement sets. CMP notes that scaled-down laboratory tests confirmed that tunnels could be excavated in this artificial substrate without the intrusion of external seawater or secondary disasters such as ground subsidence. China's reclamation in the South China Sea has posed an ongoing problem for the U.S. and the Philippines, prompting both nations to seek an adequate long-term response. In a January 2018 article for the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, Weston Konishi notes that the primary U.S. strategy for China's land reclamation activities in the South China Sea is to conduct freedom of navigation operations, FONOPS. Still, Konishi says it is unclear if this strategy will practically impact China's land reclamation activities. Further, in a March 2023 Associated Press (AP) article, Jin Gomez mentions that the Philippines has launched a strategy of publicizing China's aggressive actions in the South China Sea. In the latest round of accusations this month, the Philippines has accused China of destroying coral reefs in the disputed Scarborough Shoal, ruining the livelihood of the former fisherfolk. Gomez says that the Philippines publicizing China's aggressive actions in the South China Sea aims to expose the latter's gray zone activities and inflict reputational costs by forcing China to admit or lie about its actions. But as with US OPS, the Philippines' publicity strategy against China may have little practical impact on China's land reclamation efforts. David Hutt, in an April 2024 Deutsche Welle article, says that an increasing number of European U.S. allies, such as the UK, France, Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands, have deployed warships to the South China Sea in recent years. However, Hutt says these countries have an opaque position regarding the Philippines' territorial claims in the South China Sea. He adds that it is doubtful they have the military capabilities to assist the Philippines or shape the course of events should a conflict erupt in that strategic body of water. While the Philippines has been hurriedly modernizing its military on a limited budget and is diversifying its defense partnerships to include Japan and Australia, U.S. resolve is still the decisive factor in the Philippines' defense posture in the South China Sea. Despite statements from U.S. officials assuring the Philippines of an ironclad commitment and upscaled naval exercises and shows of force in the latter's exclusive economic zone, EEZ, U.S. calculus for the Philippines may not be that favorable for the latter. One indicator is the disparity of U.S. military assistance to key allies and partners. In April 2024, former Philippine Senator Panfilo Lacson pointed out the vast difference between U.S. aid to the Philippines and Taiwan. Lacson says that $500 million is just alms to console the Philippines for potentially being a collateral target should the U.S. use the country as a staging area in case of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. He points out that Taiwan has received $8 billion in U.S. military aid, which makes the sum allocated to the Philippines relatively paltry. From an operational perspective, Quinn Marshik, in an article this month for the National Interest, TNI, says that disputed features in the South China Sea have little strategic value for the U.S., are militarily indefensible, and that China is unlikely to halt freedom of navigation in the area as it is the prime beneficiary. He says that instead of cooling tensions between China and the Philippines, the U.S. has leveraged the Philippines' willingness to be used as a staging area in case of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, raising risks of escalation. Marshik adds that it is doubtful that the U.S. will risk a nuclear war with China over South China Sea islands and features. He adds that implausible reassurances to the Philippines be replaced with a firm commitment to defend its main islands if attacked. Much to the U.S. advantage and perhaps the chagrin of Philippine pundits, the U.S. has remained ambiguous about its commitment to defend the Philippines in the South China Sea. In a two-part Cambridge Core article this month, Melissa Loja and Romel Baggers point out that the U.S. 1975 and 1979 interpretations of its 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, MDT, with the Philippines deny any legal obligation to defend the latter in an armed conflict over the Spratly Islands. They mention that those legal interpretations were not revised in U.S. government statements in 2024. Loja and Bagger say the U.S. is careful to limit its obligations to an armed attack against Philippine armed forces, public vessels and aircraft, including the Coast Guard, while in the Philippines is, but not when they are on the disputed Spratly Islands or their respective territorial seas. They point out that while the Philippines' decrepit warship Burpee Sierra Madre, grounded at 2nd Thomas Shoal, is covered by the 1951 MDT, the U.S. has condemned China but not used military force in response to harassment and attacks on Philippine resupply missions to the beleaguered outpost. While they say the 1951 NDT covers Philippine installations, forces and vessels on Reed Bank, the 1975 U.S. interpretation excludes the disputed Scarborough Shoal from treaty obligations. For Loja and Baggers, the question is whether the U.S. is willing to uphold its treaty obligations with the Philippines with American soldier lives fighting over tiny features scattered over the South China Sea.